Now the forum moves into its first thematic pillar, women ground in AI, social norms, gender bias, and human impacts. To guide this important session, please join in welcoming Professor Jitsko Henschel, Affiliate Professor at the Faculty of Governance, Economic, Social Sciences at UNFPA, whose work focuses on inclusive development and societal dimensions. Professor Jitsko Henschel, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Lovely to be here. Big thanks to the organizers. Big thanks to Morocco AI, to the German corporation. Mohammed, thank you so much for inviting me. And Anita, this was, I think, a fantastic speech to set us off. I think you brought really great examples, but also really a call for action with what you talked to us about. So I am extremely happy to have a fabulous panel, and I'm going to invite my panelists up on stage. So first, Myriem Noussairi, who is the head of office of UN Women. Thank you so much. We have Professor Cornelia Walther with us, who is an AI thought leader, senior fellow at the Harvard Learning and Innovation Lab, and a senior fellow at Wharton School and Sunway University. Many of you will know Cornelia already from the first Morocco AI from last year. So thank you again for coming, Cornelia. We have our dear Professor Aawatif Hayar with us, who, apart from her many academic accolades, including having been the president of Hassan Frugal Social Smart Cities, and she's the former minister of Solidarity, Social Integration, and Family. We have Marielle with us, who is the representative of UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund, and who was also who's very active in this debate and who's been the moderator of one of the panels last year. And last but not least, we have Professor Abdessamad Fatmi with us, who's a senior expert in education and AI, a policy advisor and an academic at the same time. So I'm going to move over to the very end here. So I asked Mohammed if I could move my chair a little bit so that I can actually see the panelists, which I think is quite important. So I think we've heard the statistics from Mohammed, from our colleague from the German embassy, from Anita. So I think the base is set why this is such a key and important topic for us to think through. And how crucial it is to, as Anita just said, the soul of AI is still being written or is still being designed. How important it is and how urgent it is to act now. So in this panel, what we're going to do, we're going to start first with Myriem to talk about these biases and the gender biases in the systems as they exist today. We're going to hear about the urgency of acting now, and then we're going to move on to think about, well, how could a system actually looks like that works differently? Who is designing this, for whom it is designed, and the purpose of the design itself. And that purpose, kind of the social importance, will be very crucial in our debate. And then we're going to move on to think through concrete examples. How can this be done differently, and what agency can women and should women really have at this very moment in time? So with this, let me start with Myriem, and we have, just you see it in your booklet, we have 4 core questions to answer in this panel, so hopefully we'll get to these, and I will mentioned the core questions. And Myriem, I wanted to start with one of these core questions directly with you. As you see in your concept note, in what ways do cultural and social norms influence AI design, especially in perpetuating gender biases? And if you could kind of give us an idea what this especially means in the Global South, that would be great. Myriem.
Thank you, Jesko, and very excited to be part of a wonderful and exciting panel. Before I start, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation and gratitude to the organizer, Morocco AI, the German Embassy, GIZ, and recognizing the presence as well of two ministers in the room, and very happy for their support to this initiative on putting women at the center of the discussion of AI. So with regards to gender norms, I think it was said before, AI does not have values, but AI is not only about technology. AI is shaped by the societies that built it. So in the AI discussion, we do need to take into consideration the power structures, the social context, and of course, the inequalities. With regards to gender bias, I mean, the tone was set in the keynote address and your introduction, Jesko. The key entry points, I would say, that influence and that scale up and maximize these gender biases, first of all, is data. Ms. Anita Bhatia mentioned the absence of data. When data is not there, obviously, there's an absence of information. So anything that should be taken into consideration by AI is absence. And we see that in forms of representation, when there is absence on data on women representation in the economic spheres, in the political spheres, in the scientific data sets, then these are statistically absent from the AI systems. And if they're not reflected in data in AI systems, then there's obviously a lack in a fully representative analysis with regards to resource allocations, loan allocation, financial access, access to public services, and obviously labor market analysis. So that is one form of gender bias that leads to exclusion. Stereotypes is another key entry point. Every stereotype that we see in society is codified in the AI algorithms. And we have seen in the introductory presentation by Professor Khalil that even in the health sectors, some métiers, some roles are feminized and codified. And in AI, we see that leadership is associated with men. Nursing and care, especially the care burden, is associated with women. And sometimes, oftentimes, women's image is represented in a specific form, which is oftentimes beautified and sexualized. So that's the second aspect. The third aspect, which was touched upon as well, is governance. Who is around the table? Who is part of the conversation, governing and deciding on the design process, on the risks associated in the design process, and on the regulatory framework as well. So when women are not represented in these spheres of governance and decision-making, then certain risks are not seen, they're not identified, they're not even tested, not even prioritized. So when these risks are not included in the design process, how can we expect AI to actually identify them and respond? And here I'm alluding to technology-facilitated violence against women and girls, which is increasing and on the rise vis-a-vis women, especially public figures, women in media, journalists, women in political spheres. And I'm mentioning this specific point because Morocco is entering an election period in a couple of months, and we have seen how many women have been silenced by NI or inhibited from going into public participation because of the social pressure and the risks with AI exposure on the digital scene. Finally, Anita touched upon it. Time is up. I'll finish up. AI, access to AI can be the same for men and women. However, what's important to consider and take in mind is the consequences and the impacts are not the same. Because of all these biases in the digital ecosystem and AI, access to AI does not give the same outcomes for men and women. I mentioned visibility and leadership for men, but because of the risk associated to using AI for women, women do not underuse AI for visibility and for access or economic participation processes. I'll stop at these, and I'm sure I'll have the time to react.
Thank you so much for this. And perhaps could I ask you actually to talk a little bit more about what you mentioned of women in the current campaign actually having been fearful to step forward in Morocco because they fear that there are these social media storms which might unfold. Could you go a bit more into this?
Of course. So AI is a tool, but it's also a service and can be used to communicate, to sensitize, to send messages. And in the specific context of countries like Morocco, where there is women's representation is under scrutiny and can be, as in elsewhere, utilized in a positive or negative way by the digital sphere or AI ecosystem, this could give the platform for women to actually be visible and uphold their political campaign. But at the same time, that same woman is at risk of defamation, being attacked using AI technology, being impersonated otherwise, and especially being used through algorithms to silence that voice. AI can silence a voice like it could scale it up. And it's this dichotomy that we need to keep in mind in situations like this, and especially in the future electoral process.
Right. So thank you so much. So AI as this catalyzer, as this amplifier, and if I may make that remark, so I'm German, and I think we have a couple of Germans here in the room. We had, over the last couple of weeks, we had really something extraordinary and horrible happening, namely that one of a very famous actor, Colleen Fernandez, came out, and perhaps some of you have heard this, and she went public with her husband, or the claim is that her husband created AI sexual content on her and then put that up in fake LinkedIn and social media accounts. So that, on the positive side, that actually had a huge impact in the German public debate, and we had, for the first time, demonstrations on social media and also on the management of AI in many cities. But it shows also this extreme vulnerability which AI can actually bring to people, and especially to women. So thank you so much, Myriem. Cornelia, if I could go to you and help us go a bit deeper into these circumstances under which AI is created right now. We've talked about the risk, we've talked about the necessity to work now on reducing biases because otherwise they are perpetuated. So how can we frame this pressure we have today?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think if there isn't already this sense of urgency after everything that we have seen this morning, I would say we're currently navigating a very dangerous transition with our relationship and AI, because we're navigating a scale of agency decay. We have passed the stage of experimenting with it. Most of us, I would say, in this room and across the world are in the stage of integrating it, and where it's becoming more and more normal and commonplace. And that means we're just half a step away from reliance and maybe in a not too far off future, full-blown addiction. And all of us in this room had the luxury to grow up in a time and age where ChatGPT and others were not on our fingertips. That means we had to evolve against friction. And let's face it, the brain is a muscle. Use it or lose it. So I don't know about you, I didn't have a cell phone when I was a child. Ergo, I still remember the phone number of my grandmother when I was 5 years old. Today, I barely remember my own. Google Maps. When did the last time any of you use a paper map? Google Maps is now our best friend in the pocket. But these are isolated functions in the brain. They have been taken over, and we willingly delegated them to our always available tools. Now, the next generation has a friend in the pocket that is willingly taking on any given cognitive effort. It's this lump sum delegation that is more and more creeping into our day and life, in our work. And I would argue that's not a good thing, because the human being likes the walk of last resistance. So if we can avoid effort, and in particular cognitive effort, we embrace every opportunity. So, addiction, maybe not too far off. And maybe to add a little tinge of urgency on that, agency decay is just the entry point to a whole ABCD of AI issues, with, at the micro level, agency decay. At the B, we have the bond erosion. Because we have now already a chatbot in the pocket that is always available, always friendly, always tells us how magnificent we are. Well, why would you bother with another human being that is just as quirky and cumbersome as you are? Now, a couple of years down the line, maybe not too far off, the robot revolution. So all of these chatbots that we currently have in our pockets telling us how marvelous we are might soon be embedded in an entity that looks the way you want it, feels the way you want it. Again, why not replace whatever counterpart you have right now? The C of climate change, we haven't spoken about that, and it's not the topic of the day, but it is important to remember that AI is not free. It is expanding our already too big environmental footprint. And right now, 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries have been crossed with irreversible damages. So again, thinking about the next generations, what we're doing right now has cost. And finally, and that leads me to the big D of the divided society. Because yes, we're millions of us who are excited about AI, who are experimenting with it every single day. But let's remember, there are billions of people who are still struggling to have enough food, electricity, and water. So they might be amongst the first who should benefit from this new technological treasure chest, but they are also the least likely to get it, to have access to it. But in the meantime, they are paying the consequences. And now, and I will end on that, I will end a little tinge more of the urgency sense, because we are currently in a hybrid tipping zone. We are part of this last analog generation. At the micro level, we have agency decay. At the meso level, we have the race towards AI supremacy, because organizations, private sector, and sadly also academia are rushing to bring AI in, because everybody is afraid of missing whatever benefits can come out of it. But let's face it, we are all part of a gigantic social experiment. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the medium and long term. But in the meantime, let's pour billions into it. Even so, and that leads me to the macro aspect of the race towards AI supremacy, nobody knows how to control these extremely sophisticated systems once, and whatever AGI may be, artificial general intelligence in the different definitions, but from Google via OpenAI to Meta, the CEOs are very transparent about the fact that they don't know how to control it once they have it. And what Anita said, care should be embedded in the system, Well, that's not the trend that is currently emerging. Not at all. Yep. And finally, at the meta level, it's this aspect of planetary decay. Because nothing what we do today is free. Everything has consequences. And at the end of the day, we can't expect the technology of tomorrow to be better than the humans of today. So it's still this old garbage in, garbage out versus values in, values out. And I think it came out very clearly already in what was said. Women tend to have more caring instinct. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And just on that last point, the caring instinct, which is also something Anita kind of mentioned, it would be great, actually, hopefully at the end we have a minute or two on this, but to actually have a discussion and some reactions from you, because that has a big impact. It's not only equality, kind of you want, or equity at the design stage, but it is really important then to have women leadership, and perhaps an extra leadership compared to men in that design phase. So I think that would be worth to think through a little bit later on. Minister Hayar, so now we've heard about the agency decay. We've heard from Myriem about the biases and the risks. So if we now turn this, and this goes to the second core question we were tasked with in the concept note, how can we now leverage AI to address societal challenges in various sectors, including education, health, and inclusion, but particularly with that kind of gender lens which we're discussing?
Thank you, Geshko. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like first to thank Morocco AI President, my colleague Professor Khalil, and members of Morocco AI board, and also partners, GIZ, Arab Women Organization, and all the partners of this important forum. So I think that to address inclusion using AI, it opens a lot of perspectives. AI, Anita, I think, said that Morocco is well advanced in education, and and that's true. We achieved a very important progress, especially for primary school. Primary school is almost 99%, 99.9% access to education for boys and girls. But when we move to high school, and we have about 30% drop-off, and so we can use AI, and especially AI agents, to accompany these girls, even from home, even from remote school, even so that they can continue their curricula, and they can be integrated. Of course, the best thing we can do is to bring them to school, but sometimes we have a problem with social norms, and I will come back to that. But in this transition, we can accompany them from their home, from a village school, to access to education and to lifelong education. Also, so this is AI used for e-learning, and we can use also AI for accompanying families. We should not to forget about families. In general, families they don't allow girls to go to school because economic problems, or because they are afraid that something bad they can be rapid, they can be, some bad can happen to them. So they keep them at home, they keep them in the village. So we need to use AI to educate parents, mothers, and fathers. And accompany them with, again, AI agents to develop an economic project. And I told when I was minister about entrepreneurial family, for example. And we can educate moms and fathers and to get to have skills and professional skills and develop an economic project so that they will not face economic challenges and count on their little girl to be married and to bring money or to help herself. The other point where we can use AI to face or in inclusion context is about soft skills, because we need to face social norms. And how to face social with education, with soft skills? When you have boys that they have soft skills, when you have girls that they have soft skills, we don't have these social norms, and we see this in Europe. It's not only a matter of education; it's a matter of soft skills also. And again, AI can help. But we should not stop to inclusion. We should think about also the importance of bringing women, all women, not only in vulnerable situation, to be integrated in this hybrid intelligence, because we need all our brains. This is not for inclusion. This is for the future of humanity. We are talking about intelligence. So we need algorithmic intelligence. We need all human intelligence, men and women. And we need women to be in a high level so that they can influence public policies, they can influence the decisions. And this is why, again, I insist on the quality of these women that are involved in the decision. Because sometimes we are talking about numbers. Okay, how many women in the parliament? How many women? But are they really, or women and men working together to progress in terms of law, of rights? How many laws we have produced in the parliament in favor of women, for example? We should use some qualitative index and not only numbers. The representativity of women, we need to increase it, but not only, we need to have a quality in this representation. And how? Again, with soft skills. With soft skills, and when using index that say it's not only numbers, it's also how these men and women are working together to produce law and rules and decisions that are in favor of women. We have seen, for example, in Europe, there is no problem of social norm. There is no problem of access to education, but we have very low rate of women in accessing to money or to funding. And so I think that we need also to know when we develop this. We are developing this future with the access to economy, to education for all. We should also think about how we can also not copy the man model. Sometimes we need women when they are in a decision-making phase, or they try to be like men. For example, we have meetings at 9 in the evening. We have, this is not normal. This is why I'm talking about social AI. How we can develop an AI that can make our life, the life of humanity, in favor of more peaceful and happy balance between family life and professional life, and not copy men, I would say, way of working. And it's why to have meetings at 9 or at 7 or in the evening or in a bar or in. This is not normal. We should have meeting in office and stop at 5, for example. So we need, because social, because family well-being, this is what we will need in the future. A lot of tasks will be made by or will be done by robot, by physical AI. But we need creativity in the future. You talked about ethics, about creativity, about value. Only human produce these things. So we need all humans to be part of this, what I call augmented intelligence.
Great. So augmented intelligence, and you mentioned social AI, which goes to that, also to that different purpose of what AI, of what that type of AI or that path of AI would be like. And perhaps if I could pivot just back to Cornelia, because you, Minister Hayar, and Cornelia, you actually wrote a kind of a white paper together on the fourth path, which I thought was actually super interesting to kind of categorize governance systems of how AI is developed in the way that you're doing it. So perhaps, Cornelia, if you could just very quickly tell us, what does the fourth path mean?
The fourth path is actually something that I'm very happy to work on here in Morocco and also in Malaysia, where's my other foot. And it is about positioning the Global South as a champion for a path to the global future that is pro-social. That is not the mainstream of the US, which is business overall, which is not the EU model, which is regulation overall, which is not the Chinese model, which is state dominance, but it is deliberately configured towards being pro-people, pro-planet, and pro-potential. So it has what I call the 4T of tailored, trained, tested, and targeted to bring out the best in and for people and planet, and which has regenerative intent embedded in the algorithmic architecture of the future. And that requires hybrid intelligence. So not just AI literacy or digital literacy, but actually the combination of human literacy, a holistic understanding of self and society, people and planet, and algorithmic literacy, not just prompt engineering and what's the latest tool, but also how does it impact our ability to think, to feel, and to interact as human beings? Because we have seen it throughout the morning. We are biased. Let's face it. That is part of the configuration of the brain. We must know these Achilles heels of our own system so that the AI is configured accordingly, not to exploit it, but to compensate for it. And actually with UNFPA, and I'm sure Marielle is going to talk more about that, we're organizing a workshop in the coming days to design double literacy and what it can mean in the education system in Morocco. So, yeah.
Great. No.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that hybrid intelligence is absolutely key. And again, if we go back to what a bit Anita said when she talked about the specific human intelligence that women bring, which is around values of mother's sensibility, emotional intelligence, framing in terms of care, that human intelligence really is different between men and women. And so this is why it would be so important. It is so important to have women really in these leadership positions. Thank you so much. So Marielle, Cornelia already mentioned that you're doing actually quite some very interesting hands-on work, which gets us to this third question or core question from the concept paper. How can women leadership help identify and mitigate gender bias in AI data sets and algorithms? And I think you and UNFPA, you've really tried to do something. And when I walked in, I saw Marielle, who showed me her phone and said, "My app is up." So tell us about this.
Okay. I'm really happy, first, that Cornelia was talking about the double literacy, because I think this is quite a strong and concrete approach to addressing artificial intelligence, looking at how the mind works and also how the algorithm works. So we're not seduced by the algorithm. So we understand that there's a difference between that and the human brain. But I just want to go back to a couple of, concrete examples of what is like this, what does this AI look like? And there are a couple of really good things happening in Morocco. The first one is a Moroccan startup called Deep Echo. Deep Echo is using artificial intelligence to identify the risk of postpartum hemorrhage. 14 million women will have problems linked to postpartum hemorrhage. That's when you bleed out after giving birth. Globally, 14 million. And between 43 to 70 million are going to die each year as a result of postpartum hemorrhage. And 80% of the women that die are in the global south and on the African continent. So it's an urgent problem that needs to be addressed, but we have not been able to address it until now. Through the help of artificial intelligence, you can identify anomalies in the placenta. You don't have to be trained to do it. You just need to be trained how to use, like, the ultrasound, and the data is sent to the cloud, and then you have AI analyzing it. Right now, it's together with experts in this, but we're testing the model because the first results are really positive. So we don't want to just accept it as UNFPA. I mean, we are the Sexual Reproductive Health Agency after all. We're testing the model here in Morocco, and we'll have the results by the end of the year. And if it is validated, it means we can actually save millions of lives, millions in the end. So that is something that's a good thing with AI. We could not have done this before. The other thing, and this is what Jessica was referring to, is like, I've been talking about AI now. I was here in the first forum a year ago, and I thought, you know what? I'm still very angry and frustrated because, just as Hayar was saying, girls drop out, 30% of girls drop out after primary school. They don't get to high school. Why? Because parents are concerned about them, because the girls don't want to go to school because not all schools have, toilets with doors. It's very basic stuff, and the girls are not aware of their own body. So I thought, you know what? I am going to develop an app because I'm sick to death of girls not understanding how their hormone cycle works across their lifetime. At least, when it begins. And I'm also very tired of being a woman of a certain age in menopause, and I meet other women who have no information about their bodies. This is the 21st century, and it's another example of how, social norms have excluded women from understanding their own bodies. So Own Your Cycle, that's the app, Own Your Cycle is a free application. I spent all of the Eid holiday developing this thing, and then spent the rest of the 3 weeks debugging everything, all the things wrong, these things didn't connect, all of this. I launched it yesterday. It's very new. It's my baby. And it just goes to show that someone who is 61 years of age, who was too impatient to wait for anyone to actually get this off the ground, I have delivered this for you. So all the women in the room, I can send you a link. I'll give you my card, send me an email. It is on a browser now because I haven't been able to figure out how to package it on the App Store and the Play Store. But it will solve problems, and it's a game. It's fun to learn about your own body. No more myths and no more barriers. And the third one, is my time up already?
No, go.
Third one.
Yes. Great.
Thank you.
Excellent.
The third one is the Coach in Pocket, and this is something that we're developing with Cornelia. It's an app for, I think I want to move away from the word care, because it's too soft and too precious. Yeah. This is about taking responsibility for people and planet.
Yes.
And it's just that women and girls have grown up with being socially conditioned to take more responsibility. And it doesn't have to be this way. This is learned behavior. And I can talk more about that later, but I understand my time is up.
Right. No, thank you so much. Great examples. You started talking about double literacy, Marielle, yes. That it's so important. Could you talk just a little bit and explain why that concept of double literacy is so important in these examples?
Okay. I think, anyone who's worked in development has worked to make the world a better place. And we've looked at the material conditions, we looked at food, shelter, employment opportunities, but we haven't spent enough time looking at the architecture of the human mind, how our emotions work. So we have left out half of this component in our evolution, you could say. And I would argue that a lot of the chaos that we see today is as a result of not paying attention to how our human mind and how our emotional intelligence evolves. The part of double literacy is looking at that. How is our natural intelligence? How did that evolve? And it's Daniel Kahneman's Fast and Slow. Where do our biases come in? How do our emotions react? What captures our attention? It's curiosity, it's fear, it's all of these things that we see the algorithms of social media amplifying. We need to name it in order to be able to step away from it in a more intelligent fashion. And you know, for my app, my beautiful Claude AI, Claude Code, I mean, working with this for 1 month, you can see how easily it is to give your brain over to something like this. So unless you are aware of how you get sucked into this conversation, you are not able to step away from it. And because, as you said, AI amplifies, where's Mohammed? AI amplifies everything, you need to be aware of the algorithm so that you do not make it human. It is not human. You need to work together with it. It is a hybrid intelligence. Yep. But the double literacy is that aspect of it, because the algorithm we can learn very fast. But the other aspect is about changing how development is done. And I think it's the foundation for the new hybrid development goals.
Right. So that's the strengthening that our muscle, no? which you mentioned. And this is to see really, as you said, what we're sucked into and avoid that type of addiction Cornelia talked about, but actually to manage the system for a social purpose, right? Yes. And that goes then to the concept of social AI. Dear Dr. Fatmi, great to have you also. Could you reflect a little bit on what you heard up to now of this concept of social AI, of that fourth path, but also on trying to have systems that really halt and roll back biases from your experience in the education sector in Morocco?
Absolutely. So first of all, let me start by thanking Morocco AI, obviously thanking the German cooperation and our distinguished guests, wonderful keynote speaker. And let me start by saying that I really hate to break this wonderful all-ladies circle by my awkward male presence.
No, me including. Huh? Yeah, thank you.
So I think that it's very hard to disagree with what has been said, and there's a lot to be said around the governance of AI to solve issues of gender equity issues. I think there's a lot to be done in terms of leadership as a safeguard, as much as you said, there's a lot to be done in terms of inclusive educational reforms. And that's a specific field that's very, very dear to my heart, given my background in education. I had a chance to advise a former minister, myself a university professor and former dean, and sovereign data and sovereign AI is also another. But then again, I love this format of discussions and open debates, because I think, as our wonderful keynote speaker said, we're going through a change of industrial proportions that, in my mind, calls upon us to change the paradigm of solving problems. I really think that if we are here about to try to solve problems and here I'm not just going to stop at the level of the gender, because there are so many other social, economic, political phenomena that divide societies, and gender is definitely a prominent one among them. But think about all the geographic divides. Think about all the ethnic divides, the political, the religious divides. I hate to say that we cannot continue trying to solve these problems in a fragmented way. The reason why I'm saying this is that when we look at what is happening now with AI, and examples tend to ground us. And let me share an example with you. A few months ago, I was watching this podcast, where Elon Musk was invited by, it's called the All In podcast. So a bunch of billionaires asking their good friend Elon Musk about, and they were actually complaining about their profiles on Wikipedia. Now, let us just pause. Wikipedia is a beautiful system we have always used, and it started in 2001 to build, if you check, it's around 7 million entries, 7 million profiles. And these billionaires are complaining about their profiles on Wikipedia. And they asked Elon, why don't you retrain Wikipedia in order to correct, and I'm using the words, actually Elon Musk referred to it as, I'm going to remove the garbage on Wikipedia. I am going to correct knowledge. So if we take this example, that means, and by the way, after a few weeks, Elon Musk released his Grokkipedia. I invite you to check it out, Grokkipedia. In a matter of few weeks, Elon Musk corrected 6 million entries, okay, in a few weeks. So a system that we have been using since 2001 that has this amazing update system with checks and balances. Now, one person claims to have the right to change it. So why I'm using this example is for us to wake up, to really think that if we think that by using the same paradigms to solve these problems is probably not the right way. And this is why I am thinking that we have to look at the amplitude of the problem in its real size, that we are now talking about a new kind of oligarchy, and you use the image. And I love the fourth way. In a book I wrote about the topic, I call this the pincer movement, a pincer movement where we are being crushed from up and from down. From up, and you rightly said it, because our brains are in a state of constant atrophy, because we are relying on these chatbots that give us an easy answer. And if we know anything about our brains, we know that we are very lazy, that we love easy solutions, okay? So, and then the down movement is when you have oligarchs who are willing to use synthetic data, who are willing to use and correct human history and knowledge in order to feed it to us and to our kids and to the coming generations. So to me, this is the real problem, that we cannot linger in our classical ways to think about it. We need to think in a more holistic way by leveraging and we've been having a discussion about, sorry, I know my time is up, but I'm going to be very quick. We talked about the EU AI Act, which a lot of criticism, but I think it's a step. Now, think if the South, the countries of the South, actually get their act together and start thinking about true ways to actually, and the time is now. Thank you.
So thank you. No, thank you so much for this. So you mentioned these different divides, so that the gender and gender divide, as we've heard, is absolutely crucial to tackle. But you talked about religious, geographic, racial, all kinds of different divides. So from your perspective, that new way, that kind of new governance system, can that tackle all at the same time, or are there trade-offs?
Well, I think since all these, let's say, inequities are mirroring who we are, and I think at the end of the day, these divides are just reflecting the injustices that have been going on for the longest time, and so they are just showing us who we have been. And so therefore, I do think that it is, the actions like these have the potential to address all these problems at the same time. If we believe, and here I will refer you to the latest paper written by Dario Amodei, who's the CEO and founder of Anthropic. He has two seminal papers. He wrote one first called it Machines of Loving Grace, where he's raving about everything great that AI can do for us. And I think it took him a few years to write this second one, where he's talking about surviving technological adolescence. And I love the term. It almost seems that we as human beings have reached our not even maturity, but we are at the adolescent stage. Are we going to survive it? And I think that's a really poignant way to put it. And to me, one way to survive and thrive, because I believe we can imagine amazing futures for us, because through AI, we can enter into an age of abundance, of true abundance, and move away from ages of scarcity, because now we know AI can bring about abundance. What can we do about it, and how can we reorganize it? The overwhelming tendency now is that you see oligarchs wanting to gain more and more and more. And the divides, therefore, the gaps are becoming all the more significant.
Yep. Thank you. And that reminds me, obviously, Anita reminded us that what geopolitical situation we're living in and what increasing division is going through the world, and that many of the kind of the pillars which we thought we would be living in our lifetime are not there anymore. So when we also talk about equity, bringing biases down at the very beginning in the various dimensions you mentioned, in the end that's the urgency is even higher, but the uphill battle is even stronger, given what you're talking about, the oligarchs who actually currently have the AI development at their fingertips. No? So, but it's a call to action, but it's a difficult battle, so to speak. Great. So just to check with Hamid, do we have a couple of minutes left? Yeah, wonderful. Because then so thank you so much for this. Now I'm going to still take you to task to talk about education in Morocco, which was a bit my question, but perhaps that's the entry for all of you to shortly reflect on our last question for the panel, which was, what ethical frameworks and community engagement practices can women leaders champion to ensure responsible AI adoption? And if you could think of something concrete from your work, be it in Morocco, be it in another country, be it in an initiative you've been working with, I think that would be great. And I'm going to start with you to talk about education in Morocco.
Well, certainly. I actually just came back from a 3-week wonderful program in the United States within the framework of an exchange program called the IVLP. I'm sure there are IVLP laureates, the International Visitor Leadership Program. And we visited 5 states. We had the opportunity to look at the educational system. The only comfort from that visit is that we are all on the same boat. We really think about the same problem. Nobody has cracked it yet. But still you see, you get inspired, one, from the different approaches that are adopted. So some are really addressing the problem head on, being very intentional about solving it. Others are still in a wider conversation in an inclusive way. But definitely, to me, one of the entry levels is education. And AI today is making it possible for us to make the process much more efficient and much more quick, especially with the youth. I've had the opportunity to look at the example of schools called the Alpha schools. I don't know if you've heard about them, but they're making a lot of noise for good and bad reasons. On the one hand, they're criticized to cater for the ultra-rich, and which is true. But I don't think we should throw the baby with the bathwater, because their model actually does involve some ingenious solutions on how to leverage AI to actually facilitate the task of the teachers. And teachers have actually one of the most complex jobs you can think of in HR terms. We are asking a teacher to be a top subject matter expert. We are asking a teacher to be a good didactician. That means needing to know how to teach. We are asking a teacher to also be very good with parent relationships, with administrative tasks, and a good source of inspiration. If you give this to any HR expert, they will tell you this is an impossible profile to find. And yet our solution is to underpay them. So apparently, not apparently, but clearly, there are some solutions that are alleviating the tasks of the professor or the guides, they're calling them guides rather than teachers, and really dedicating their role towards more of the human in the loop, to the inspiration, how to facilitate their tasks, and letting the AI offload a lot of the cognitive charge, obviously always with a human in the loop. So
thank you so much. So same question to you, Marielle. So these ethical framework, so really putting our heads into, how can we support women leaders to make that difference now?
Okay, I mean, reflecting on what I'm hearing, we are living in someone else's algorithm, frankly. This entire social structure, the fabric that we have, I don't want to be in it. I don't want to see it. We need to change it completely. And we can only do that if we activate ourselves. For me, this is a revolution that women can actively participate in and do not feel left behind. Do not be intimidated by this technology. See it as your responsibility to engage with it, because if you do not engage, then again, we will remain in this algorithm that has been created by the old order led by men. We have to break free. And going back to my little application, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And I think that I hope I can lead with example with this, because we have to step into this space. And again, for the African continent, I think only 5% of researchers in Africa have access to artificial intelligence. And this is a continent that will have 2.5 billion people. And you can look at it with a look of horror, but also a look of, awe and responsibility and opportunity, because imagine if things changed. Imagine if we leapt out of someone else's algorithm and decided that we would take this fourth path, where the hybrid intelligence model includes a deep dive in human and natural intelligence, so that we overcome all of the barriers that have been created outside of the global south. Imagine the equalizer that would be. It is not impossible. As you say, the revolution has already started. It's here. We can jump on this train. If I can do it, you can do it. Join me. How's that?
Right. So what a call for action.
Yes, call
Thank
for
you
action,
so
for
much.
sure. Yes.
Minister Hayar, so what tools do women leaders have? What would you tell women leaders around the world, but especially in the global south? How can they influence?
Yes, we can influence by launching initiatives that can make sensitization about this problem of inclusion, of importance of engaging women in this hybrid intelligence. And for example, there are initiatives like Women in AI. I launched myself last year an initiative which is Frugal, sovereign, social AI, and with the female and male researchers, and we are advising PhD theses and scientific work about engaging women and men and in this social AI approach. And also we can, as experts in AI, working in our field, we can use AI to show numbers. This is very important. For example, as I said before, if we think about the North, we say no problem is the North. But when we go in deep and look to numbers, we see that less than 2% of women in the world accessing to money. Less than 2% accessing to funding for their projects. So, and this only by using AI and data analysis, we can rise these numbers and show by numbers that it's still a big bias in the North and in the South for women. So we can push this work in using AI to reduce this, or at least to show the bias that is existing in the world for engaging women in the development, in economy, etc. And also, again, using numbers to show where we have weaknesses, to develop new policies. Because sometimes we say, as I say, we have half of the parliament women. So, but what policies are we producing for progressing with the women rights and women engagement and participation in the society, in the economy? So this is very important to have a quality in this analysis, quality in number, and this we can do it easily with the AI. It's a big facilitator for big data analysis, etc. So I think this is what I can add for how we can champion using AI to reduce this bias in using AI algorithms and analysis.
Thank you so much. Cornelia, same question to you.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's time to move beyond the narrow return on investment scope towards a more holistic understanding of what return on values actually mean. And because let's face it, right now, we're repeating the mistakes that were made during the first, second, and third industrial revolution, where technology was always driven by commercial intent and, let's face it, number-wise, was always primarily driven by men. So now we're arguably in the fourth, some even say it's the fifth industrial revolution. We have another chance. We have an opportunity to really benefit from this expanding artificial treasure chest to take society to the next stage and to make it pro-people, pro-planet, and pro-potential. But that's not going to happen by itself. That requires intent, that requires leadership. And women, most likely, are just as well, if not better positioned than men. But for that, we need hybrid intelligence, and that requires double literacy. So human literacy on the one hand, algorithmic literacy on the other hand. Because otherwise, and I'm coming back to what I said at the beginning, agency decay is going to take its revenge. It has started now already, and that's not going to save us from ourselves. And if I might answer one last piece on this concrete aspect, the pro-social AI index that we're currently working on here and also in Malaysia, it's looking to combine the 4T of pro-social AI, so the tailored, trained, tested, and targeted, with the quadruple bottom line. So to move beyond the profit element, to even move beyond the triple bottom line that probably some of you are familiar with, of people, profit, planet, and to include systematically the fourth P of purpose. And that is another initiative that the Global South, as part of this fourth path, can champion. So another call of action.
Thank you so much, Cornelia. And just to say, Cornelia also wrote a blog, I think, for International Women's Day in March. about women and AI, and one of the sentences which I picked up from there was, women are uniquely positioned to make hybrid intelligence work for social good. So thank you so much for this. Myriem, please, also your thoughts on this women leadership in shaping the system.
Sure. Well, very little to say after my comrades around the panel here, but yes, literacy, algorithmic literacy, but we need inclusion. I mean, I think I would conclude on saying it's not designed for women. We're not talking about designing AI or shaping AI to include women, but we need the design by the women. I think this is what has been said in the panel today. Again, the AI ecosystem is only a mere reflection of our current society with its power struggles, structures, and inequalities, be it on gender, because gender, and I wanted to make a comment on the education intervention, gender inequality is transversal, mainstream through all kinds of inequalities. So we have the opportunity today to use AI as a stimulant to better shape our society, more humane, more equal, more pro-people, and more pro-planet. And what are we doing? Are we missing the opportunity to actually shape it in that sense? Or are we just reproducing the industrial model? We're looking at profit and not taking and not designing from the very beginning, taking into consideration all the inequalities that are existent. So I think this is the question that needs to be addressed today. The opportunity that the Global South has is because the Global South, including Morocco, is working on its digital ecosystems, digital sovereignty. So everything is there, and I'm speaking in front of the former Ministry of Digital Transition. The policies are here, and I think the opportunity here today is to work on those policies to make sure that there will be pro-humane, pro-social, and pro-equality.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think this brings us to the end of what I thought was a super interesting discussion. Thank you so much to all of you. So we kind of did the whole we spanned everything from talking about the perpetuation of the biases to that urgency which we have right now, to a fourth way, and I think all of you contributed to thinking through a different way in which the purpose is really central in AI system development, and you all ended up with a call to action, to leadership, and also to shape policy. So big thanks to the panel. Please, big applause. And very much looking forward to the next panels. Thank you so much.